Hello everybody, we're back in the mod Kaiserredux, and we're playing as the almighty Dawn host. Now, I do not plan to stay in the Caucasus forever, for as I do not wish to be undermined by the German influence that they have imposed on us after the First World War. And how are we going to do that, you may ask? Well, this guy right here, Andrei Vlasov, he's got some quite interesting focuses, and overall a good path to go down as an almighty Dawn host. Now, Alexander Kerensky is kind of a socialist, and hopefully Russia does not go down the communist path, because I think Vlasov is quite the anti-communist. But how can we reunite Russia as a puny little nation like this? Well, first of all, we're going to have to build up our economy, because it's pretty... yeah, I don't even want to look at the number. So, we're going to start off with obviously civilian factories and move on to military factories later on when we can actually do some expansion. Now, if you take a look at this state, Kalmykia, I'm pretty sure that they're going to start their own uprisings sooner or later, so we better prepare our army. Now, the ROA is the faction of Vlasov, I'm pretty sure, and right here we get a description on Andrei Vlasov. So, if you can pause the video and read the description if you want, but now we can finally move on. Oh wait, onwards and upwards. Sorry. Now, if we take a closer look at how our nation's doing, you can see that we're hit by a Black Monday, and it's already due to the Germans. The Germans may have liberated us, but we're kind of like the Polish, but not as lesser autonomous. If you know what I mean, the world is still dictated by the Germans. Or not the entire world, just European kind of territories. Anyways, this is my first time playing as an almighty Dawn host, so I do not know how to get Vlasov. This is all very new to me, but I can see him on the left side of the focus tree. So, I'll just follow what the path guide says. Now, I just want to note that at this point I do not know what I've done wrong, so do not make the fatal mistake and get this leader right here. So instead we're going to go back and choose a top option, I think. Now, look at this. There has been an assassination attempt on our leader, meaning we have got a brand new leader. It was going to be temporary because I do not wish to keep him for long. Now, Kalmykia did uprise, but they had... voice crack, sorry. They had lesser divisions than I expected. But more importantly, we got this event. And we're going to click third to last one. No, second to last one. Sorry. Andrei Vlasov is now the leader of the Russian Liberation Committee. And we have got a brand new section of the focus tree, which looks pretty nice, if I don't say so myself. Anyways, the war against Kalmykia had been won pretty easily, so there's not going to be any more expansion for quite some time. So in the meantime, we can focus then on a focus tree, economy, and obviously improving our army. Now, taking a look at Vlasov's side of the focus tree, you can see that we have already got some debuffs, and these focuses undermine on the debuffs that we get. I mean, we've been through so many leaders within the time span of a year, so we've got to assure the people that we will not have another government take control. Instead, we are going to reassure the people that we are capable of leading a nation, and hopefully leading our people to glorious victories in Russia. Anyways, now right here, we've got the decision to intervene in the Russian Civil War, because the communists have unfortunately taken control. So we can declare war on the Russian Volunteer Army. However, we have got little to no divisions, so I'll just not do that. I mean, the Russian Volunteer Army is fending off the communists pretty well, so I don't think merely 7 divisions can fight off the Russian Volunteer Army. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure the Germans, Japanese, or any monarchists or militaristic nation with significant power sends them volunteers. So I'm not going to declare war on them anytime soon. As you can see, look, there were volunteers here, so if I did declare war on them while they had no divisions on my front line, we would undeniably get completely and utterly battered. So that was a wise decision of me by not declaring war on the Russian volunteer army. Now in the meantime, we can focus on getting rid of the opposition, because as you can see, our political party isn't that powerful if you take a look at it. And the communists around the world are rising left, right and center. So we've got to make sure that we do not turn communist just like they do, and carry out Vlasov's dreams of eliminating the so-called communists. Now we've completed the main focuses of Vlasov's tree. Now we've got this focus, slay the dragon, and we cannot slay the dragon, they so call it, because we are still very weak, and the Russian Soviet Republic has defeated both of the two largest contenders in Russia. Actually, Transmir is communist as well, so they've allied, or they've become a puppet of the Soviet Union. That's not good at all. So when we declare war on the Soviets, we're going to have to fight two technically major powers. Actually no, technically one. But you get the point. Now we can finally declare war on our southern neighbours, the mountainous region of... Actually, I forgot the name. And then Kuban. As you can see, we've also acquired some new field marshals and generals. Bunyachenko is our leading field marshal, whereas we need to get more army XP for Andrei Vlasov for him to become the leader of the Russian Liberation Committee's army. As we began our invasion on Kuban and the autonomous mountainous regions of the Caucasus, or whatever they're called, we would soon realize that our Cossacks came in extremely handy, for as we encircled the entirety of the Kuban's army, leading to the capitulation of Kuban, and then we captured the mountainous republics, or whatever. And we are looking pretty chunky. And we've deployed some brand new quality divisions to help us in a war against the feared Soviets. Actually, we do not fear them, that's why we're going to strike at them first. Now, before we can declare war on Russia, we have to deal with our southern threat, the communists down south. Chukashvili, aka Stalin, declared war on us first, so we're going to show them who's boss around here. And within a matter of days, no, probably a week, we capitulated them with ease. Now we're going to have to develop an air force to combat both Transmir's and the Soviets' air force, if we ever want to stand a chance against fighting the Soviets. Now we can prepare an offensive on the Russians. Actually no, the Russians are preparing an offensive on us. So that's not looking quite well, because they've got a combined force of around 200 divisions against our 120. So that's why we're going to need some new strategies. I've created some tank divisions to hopefully maneuver around the Soviet divisions, encircling them in, or cutting their main front line in half against us. Now, the Russian Liberation Committee stands defiant against the Soviet Union, whereas now we are officially at war against both communist nations. As we began the liberation, we would soon see that our tank forces came in extremely handy, for as we made a small but major breakthrough in the Soviets' defences, encircling Volgograd, and also encircling quite the majority of Russian troops. Actually, I don't even think the Russians are even on the front line yet, or all of them aren't. So, I'll take that for granted, closing both encirclements off, and continuing onwards. We were closing in on Petrograd after many major Russian cities had fallen, and with the fall of Petrograd, the Russian Soviet Republic alongside Transimir, its puppet, would both surrender to Vlasov's Russia. The Russian Liberation Committee stretches all the way from Petrograd to Vladivostok. Now, we can finally declare Russia reunited and continue down our focus tree. Now, we may have reunited Russia under one state. However, after many civil wars, the Russian people are tired of innocent people dying. A great majority of our Russian population over the past 2 decades have been eliminated, for nothing. So it's time for the reconstruction of Russia to begin. Now, we can officially move our government back into Moscow, making Moscow the rightful capital of Russia. Now, we can finally maneuver down our focus tree. We can no longer be a so-called military junta. We need to act like an actual government. But first things first, we have to... Wait, what? Oh yeah, I moved the capital to St. Petersburg because that's the more original capital, you could say. No, it's not. Moscow was the capital, right? Before St. Petersburg was even built. Anyways, back to the video. We can no longer stay as a military junta, for us we need to act like a proper nation. So, with the completion of this focus, we have got not 1, not 2, but 3 decisions to go down to actually formalize our own government ideology. We, right now, are just, I don't know, paternalistic. What are we? Well, our ideology says Vlasovism, or whatever. So, we can either choose between going down the blue Vost, or declaring a more democratic side. Or we can go down the middle, declaring Vlasov the supreme ruler. And just for the memes, I'm gonna go down the middle path to make Vlasov the one and true leader of Russia. Just like Alexander Kolchak. Right? He was declared the supreme ruler. I don't know. So anyways, we're gonna go down the middle path. Now, actually this is quite interesting. We've got not only the political side of the focus tree to go down, but we've unlocked some economic paths. But actually we have to focus on the political side because we have to secure the people's trust in our government. By, I guess you could call it purging, like Stalin. Or we're going to be like Stalin right here. We're going to purge all of our opposition, focusing actually on the national populists. I don't know how to pronounce it, but we gotta get rid of the radicals, so Vlasov has full control. I know this is kind of radical, but it's not like a Hitler or Mussolini type of radical, I guess. Now, with one Russia, one leader, Vlasov is officially the supreme ruler of all of Russia. Nice. Now we can actually do some expansion. Right here, reclaiming our lands. Now, we have got many nations to declare war on, such as Turkestan, Ukraine, the Ottomans, all who are enemies of the Russians. Why? Because they declared war on us, or they broke away from us when we were weak and vulnerable in the First World War. So, with our combined forces, we're going to launch 2 major invasions. First of all, against the Ottomans and Turkestan. Now, the Ottomans won their war against the Kaiserredux Axis, so I was expecting them to be a bit more competent against us. But it looks like that making the Ottomans the victors of the war weakens them even further, just like how France is at the start of the base game in Hawaii 4. If you know what I mean. Anyways, we snaked over to major cities like Ankara, their modern day capital, and Constantinople. However, we would obviously face some resistance, but their army was obviously tired and worn out after their largest war since the First World War. I don't know the Kaiserredux law, but I'm pretty sure that's the largest war that they're going to face against the current Axis. Now, things around the world are kicking off. The Second Weltkrieg, the Entente reclaiming France, but right now we are not bothered with that. We are bothered with the fact that nations could betray the Russian people. So that's why we have assimilated both Turkey and Turkestan back into Russian control. We're not going to keep Turkey, we're going to obviously liberate them under a Russian puppet government. Whereas the Turkish are quite different from the Slavic people, you could say. Now it looks like that the Kara Axis didn't actually fully capitulate against the Turkish, even though they've suffered the most casualties and losses. So we only got Turkey, so I think it's most unfair on our behalf. So that's why we're going to launch a full-scale invasion on the entirety of the Kara Axis. And since they're pretty weak, I think we can defeat them within a matter of months.
Доверием народа и верность наша славной родине крепка. Недаром с декабря 17-го.
And just like that, after snaking down the Nile River, all of the Kara Axis has surrendered to the mighty Russia led by Vlasov. But we're not done in Asia yet. The axis of liberated peoples looks kinda stretched, and Asia is quite vulnerable. Now, the Kabul Pact is also quite vulnerable. They've only got Xinjiang, or however they call themselves nowadays in Kaiserredux, and Afghanistan. So we're gonna stand over just a few planes to conquer the nations. No, only one nation really we have to focus on, Afghanistan, because they're the faction leader. And just like that, like Kabul, I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry. The Kabul Pact has surrendered to the Russians. Now we're gonna launch a full-scale invasion of the now united India. Now, at the time I didn't expect the Indians to be so strong. However, I underestimated the strength that they holded, and we suffered many casualties. This was like the winter war of our timeline. No, of this timeline. Sorry.
Готовы с тобой, старина, повторить этот огненный путь.
After so many casualties on both behalves, No, the Indians would finally surrender, and we can finally create a so-called Indian Empire. But I don't think we're going to be done in Asia just yet. For us, look at this. The Qing have united China. So I think it's only fair that we expand down south. And they're obviously allied with the Japanese, of course they have to be. So we're going to have to launch our own very naval invasion on them. And the Japanese, being as incompetent as they are by defending their home island, we will have quite an easy time invading the main island of Japan. And just like that, all of China and all of Japan is under Russian control. We have avenged the war of 1905. Right, I think so. That's when the Russo-Japanese War took place. Well, the axis of liberated people stretches all across Asia, or most of it. Now, the final front that we have to focus on is reclaiming our European territories, and obviously more. Now we can start with the Ukrainian People's Republic. Sorry, for us, they're not in any faction, and they have made themselves pretty dominant. By conquering the Hungarians and Romanians. So the first European major, I guess, is actually losing. I mean, the Ukrainian People's Republic, they are communists, and you know how much Vlasov hates communists. Oh yeah, I also want to say that anything done or said in this video is purely for entertainment/educational purposes, solely. I do not believe in anything that I'm doing. I do not have any beliefs in any of the ideologies that I play as throughout my YouTube history. This is, once again, only for educational and entertainment purposes. I do not intend harm on anyone or anything. Anyways, back to the video. And just like that, the Ukrainian People's Republic, alongside its allies, have fallen to the mighty hands of the Russians. And we are not going to stop there. Once we have hit the accelerator, we will not stop until our mission has been completed, and that is to assert Russian dominance over Europe and get our revenge on those who wronged us in the First World War. And the Finnish and the Norwegians, have surrendered to the Russian hands. Nice. Now the final war is going to be against the Reichspakt and the Austrian faction. Two of the strongest nations in the world right now, against one major power, us, Vlasov's Russia. And finally, the war against the Austrians and the Germans is now officially over. Back in 1936, we were at the smallest points that we have ever been. With the uprising of Kalmykia, we were literally just the Don Republic. But ever since Andrei Vlasov took control, we have only seen victories after victories. The Russian National Republic holds most of Europe and most of Asia. And Vlasov, oh, we've got a lot of super event right here. Vlasov unites Russia. Pretty nice, if I do say so myself. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and